Before we get into the show, remember guys, this podcast posts each and every single Sunday. So if you like this content, please go check out the channel and support the content. It means a lot. I love doing this for you guys, and it's so cool to see the support that you guys give this content. So if you enjoy it, please go check out the channel where we have tons and tons of other podcasts in case you guys need to catch up on Dolphins news. So this first news story is an actual news story. We haven't got an actual news story in like the last 2 months. It's just been a bunch of opinions, for God's sake. So we're finally getting a news story. Training camp is just around the corner. I'm sure all of us are getting excited. I'm sick and tired of hearing about basketball, for God's sakes. So this first news story, Dolphins interview Adonis Alexander. The Dolphins recently conducted a private interview with Virginia Tech cornerback, according to a source who spoke with Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. Miami's also attended Alexander's pro day, so he could be a real consideration for the team in next week's supplemental draft. So if you guys are not familiar with the supplemental draft, it's a draft for younger players that happens every single year. I cannot remember how the rules go. I know there are rounds just like the normal NFL draft, but I'm a little shaky on the rules because nobody's actually picked a player since I think Josh Gordon, if I'm not mistaken. But if you use a draft pick, say you use a draft pick in the third round, then they take away your third round pick in next year's draft. So it does come with some serious consequences if you do select a player in the supplemental draft. The thing about it is this kid's actually pretty talented. Bucky Brooks, who is probably my favorite analyst, and they have a really, really good podcast on NFL.com, Move the Sticks. I love that show. He had some high praise for the kid. I haven't watched a lot of his games. I've only watched a couple games here and there. I watch, when they play Miami and stuff of that nature. But I don't know a lot about him, so I can only repeat what Bucky said. And Bucky said he reminds him a lot of Richard Sherman, which is high praise coming from a long-time NFL scout. He said he could see him having a future in the NFL. He could be a good player, but he needs to refine some of his skills. Again, I haven't watched the kid, but I've heard a lot of good things about him. So that's pretty exciting if we do take this player. Bucky said he might go in round 2 or 3 is where his projected status is. And that's as far as I go on this particular player. I really don't know a ton about him. But a lot of good things from a lot of very intelligent people when it comes to the game of football. So if the Dolphins are actually, we have a pretty loaded secondary already, but why not pick another super talented prospect in the supplemental draft? Ain't no reason for it. If you guys don't know who this kid is, he's like 6'3", he's like 6'2". He's tall like Richard Sherman. That's why Bucky compared him to him. Physical corner, presses a lot. Bucky said one of the things he needs to work on is backpedaling and playing off coverage. So he really just is a one-dimensional corner when it comes to technique. So that's what he means when he needs to refine his game. He just needs to work on the other aspects of being an NFL corner and not just be a one-trick pony. So that was one of the negatives to him. But I again, being compared to Richard Sherman, being a tall corner who's athletic enough to keep up, especially on press, that's pretty impressive. So we'll see what he can do on the next level. But if the Dolphins want to take a flyer on the kid, it makes me pretty excited. This next news story also comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins may need to look at 2019 quarterbacks. With Ryan Tannehill entering a crucial year regarding his future in Miami, the Dolphins may need to be doing some advanced scouting. The 2019 quarterback class is not viewed as spectacular by any means, but Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald writes Drew Lock and Justin Herbert figures to be on the Dolphins' radar if Tannehill falters or fails to stay healthy this season. Todd McShay has the Missouri and Oregon single callers as his number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks for next year's draft, but places neither in the top 15 prospects, which is consistent with what we've heard thus far about the 2019 crop. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt. I don't know I know Drew Lock a lot. I saw all of his games last year because I thought he was going to declare for the draft. So I did watch a lot. I think we did an entire podcast. I did an entire segment in one of my podcasts on him. I really like him a lot. We'll get to hear him in a second because I know more about him than the other kid, Justin Herbert. I don't know a lot about, so I can't really sit here and tell you guys what's up with him, but I've heard some good things about him. But Drew Lock, I have watched a lot of his games. They pass. That's all they do in Missouri is pass. I don't even think they run the football. They run such a spread offense. It's so college, it's not even funny. Everything's a play fake screen. Basically, everything's an RPO. Everything's, all right, I'm going to fake it. Either I'm going to throw the bubble screen, or I'm going to throw it over the top, or I'm going to throw the shallow crossing route, or God forbid I hand the ball off. So it's not fun. It's not a fun offense to watch, but his completion percentage is not good. I don't think he has a 60% completion percentage. I think it's below that, which is every scout says, oh my God. Obviously, I think Brett Favre, Josh Allen had a terrible completion percentage, but he still got drafted in the top 10. But Stafford and Brett are the only ones that I think, if I'm not mistaken, that have had successful NFL careers with that low of a completion percentage, which is not good because that's not a good ratio at all. But Drew Lock, man, he has something about it. And my point of why he has such a low completion percentage is because all they do is throw the football. That is all they do. And a lot of them, to be honest with you, Drew takes a lot of deep shots. So you're not going to have a high completion percentage running that kind of an offense. And especially at Missouri, for God's sakes. I mean, they're probably the worst team in the SEC, and it's probably not even close. Other than Kentucky, maybe. They're just not a very good football team as a team, as a unit. But he's a super talented player. Has one heck of an arm. Has one of the quickest releases I have seen in some time. I mean, he has a super quick release. Reminds me of Jimmy G. He has that kind of a release. I mean, it is quick. Throws with a lot of heat on that ball. He's pretty mobile. He's not like he has sufficient enough athletic ability to move around in in the pocket. But again, I don't think it has as much to do. I mean, his passing yards are off the charts. He's successful within that offense, but it just does not cater to completion percentage. I mean, the throws that he is making and attempting at a regular basis are not easy throws. So that's the only argument that I would have for him having such a low completion percentage. Obviously, he went back to college. Maybe he brings that up a little bit. But he has all the talent in the world, man. He has a chance to be a very, very good NFL quarterback. I love watching him play. He's really fun to watch. I know a lot of people compare him to Dan Marino, and I'm not just saying that because I'm saying a lot of people have compared him to Dan Marino. I think he's a little bit more athletic, but they have that something about him when you watch him throw the football. Like Dan's release is probably still the quickest release I've ever seen, and the velocity that he threw with is very similar to Drew Lock's. I mean, he has that release and he has that velocity, and he's accurate too. But again, they just throw it all over the dang yard constantly. I don't even know if they should take the running back off the roster, for God's sakes. All right. Enough about Drew Lock. I do like Drew Lock. So if the Dolphins say Tannehill doesn't work out, I think that's a no-brainer, in my opinion. He is by far, look, right now, because things always change. There's always some kind of surprise quarterback every year. Drew Lock is definitely the best out of the ones that I can think of right now. And again, I haven't watched a lot of the Justin Herbert. Herbert, such a weird name. If Herbert is a Pro Bowler one day, it's going to blow my mind. Doesn't sound like he's going to be great. Herbert. It's just an interesting name. Anyway. But I really do like Drew Lock. This next news story. Dolphins counting on Robert Quinn. The Dolphins this comes from Pro Football Rumors. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins counting on Robert Quinn. The Dolphins did a lot of revamping this offseason, and one of the moves they made was trading for defensive end Robert Quinn with fellow pass rusher Cameron Wake, now 36. The Dolphins are hoping Quinn can, quote, anchor the defensive line for the foreseeable future. According to Matt Rudock of ESPN, the Dolphins gave up a fourth. That's common knowledge. The Dolphins gave up a fourth-round pick to get him, and it sounds like he'll be playing a bigger role in 2018. Yeah, that's an interesting. Yes, he's gonna have a huge role. Clearly, we expect him to be the player he used to be, but counting on Robert Quinn, I think, is a little. I don't like that headline as much. Yes, we expect him to be good. Obviously, we traded for him. Enough said. It's kind of a weird headline right there. This next news story comes from the Finsider. Breaking down Akeem Spence. In our annual 90 and 90 series returns this morning to take a look at another member of the Miami Dolphins roster. The series of articles takes a look at each player on the team's 90-man preseason roster, breaking down how they played in 2017, why they could progress and why they could regress in 2018, and finish with a look at the chances the player has to make the 53-man roster. Let's see here. This year we have already finished. Okay, we don't need to read that. See, while he might succeed. So this is why they think he might succeed. Spence will continue to work under the defensive line coach who moved from the Lions to the Dolphins this offseason. That should give him some familiarity and stability with what is happening in the film room and on the practice field. The Dolphins will be looking to replace the production of Ndamukong Suh, who signed with the Los Angeles Rams in free agency. I'm breaking down, people. In free agency after being released by Miami. And Spence will not be the only player expected to pick up their production. He will be looked at as the veteran among several young defensive tackles, setting the example and likely seeing a large portion of the playing time. Why he might not succeed. After starting 11 games last year and recording a career high in tackles and sacks, Spence could find himself as the depth player in rotation at the position. The Dolphins are high on Jordan Phillips and Davon Godchaux, so Spence will have to beat them in training camp and the preseason if he wants to claim a starting role. He would likely see a large portion of the snaps as Miami to get away from needing a defensive tackle to play 80% of the snaps like Suh would play. Yeah, that's not going to happen. If I had to guess who's going to be the starting two D tackles, I'm not even joking. I think it will be Davon Godchaux and Jordan Phillips. I think right now they're my front runners, and I think Davon is such a sick athlete. It's not even funny, and obviously Jordan Phillips is, but he's just not consistent. But he would be a very good defensive tackle if he could just get his head on straight. And Davon Godchaux has potential to be one. We'll see what happens there when he gets a larger role this season. Because again, people forget how many snaps Suh played, and he played a lot of snaps. Man, we really was our war horse on that defensive line. But do I think? Hakeem Spence, do I agree with some of the things that were said? He is the veteran leader. So is Jordan Phillips. Jordan Phillips has been in the league long enough now to understand how to be successful at it. And if he hasn't gotten it by now, he'll never get it. But I like Hakeem Spence. I think he's a good rotational defensive tackle in this league. I think he can give you good snaps. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But I do believe that Jordan Phillips and Davon Godchaux will be your starting D tackles week 1. This next news story comes from the Sun Sentinel. Here's why a fast start looks scheduled for the Miami Dolphins. Another day, another gloom. Excuse me. Let's start. So this is why the Dolphins will start off fast this upcoming season. Let's see here. The Dolphins talent rates 20. Let's see here. The Dolphins. Okay, so now it's an ESPN ranking for teams roster. So this is where the Dolphins are ranked on talent level. The Dolphins talent level rates 26. ESPN hates us, man. I'm telling you something right now. Which fits with what odds makers, media evaluators, national writers are saying about this team, with some legitimacy to be sure. Where's the star talent? But it's July. It's 3 weeks from training camp. Let's shift from doom and gloom to shock and awe by mentioning a good possibility for the start of the year. Here are the first 3 games of the 2018 season. Week 1, home versus the Jets. Week 2, away at the not the Jets, the Titans. So week 1 is against the Titans at home. Week 2 is away. We go on the road to the Jets. And week 3, we go back home again and play the Oakland Raiders. The Dolphins have had some scheduling headaches on the gate in recent years, most notably last season when they lost their home opener to Hurricane Irma, and their first 3 games were at Los Angeles, at New York, and in London. This year is the opposite. They've got a good schedule that helps chances of a strong start. 2-1, 3-0. Well, they should be favored in their first 3 games, assuming nothing awful happens before the September 9th opener. Tennessee is decent. It made the playoffs last year, but it has a new coaching staff, and it doesn't seem like it will have right tackle Jake Coughlin, who is recovering from an ACL injury. Plus, there's the weather factor. Remember, the Dolphins moved to 4 p.m. home games to help sweating fans. My opinion on the first 3 games of the season, when you talk about Oakland, Tennessee, and the Jets, the thing that we have to do a better job of, and remember, the Titans give us a hard time. In 2016, they gave us an extremely hard time. Dick LeBeau and Tannehill have always had a weird, like, I'm not going to say Tannehill struggles against Dick LeBeau's defenses, because he, obviously won the shootout with the Steelers in 2013. That was a very high-scoring game. And then obviously, I think, what was it, 2016, yeah, we lost to the Titans. But the offense kind of struggled early on, especially, mainly because of the offensive line. So, yeah, that's going to be a tough game, and not because of the offensive side of the football, because I think our offensive line is much better than it used to be, but the defensive side of the football. This defense has struggled mightily with good offensive lines, good, and obviously good running teams, and athletic quarterbacks. I mean, we have really, really struggled with that, and I think a lot of that has to do with the defense we run, obviously with the offensive woes as well, but the defense especially. I mean, and again, in 2016, our defense was nowhere near as talented as it is today. Like, it's not even close. But my thing is I hope the middle of our defense is solidified by this is week 1. This is a great test for our run defense, going up against Derrick Henry. Obviously, Jake Coughlin's not going to be playing, but that offensive line is actually pretty good. We talk about Taylor Lewan, not Chance Warmack. I can't remember. Their center's pretty good, and their guards aren't too bad as well, either. Spain and I think Quentin Spain and Ben Jones. I think Ben Jones left though, but I can't exactly remember. But they're a good running football team. They're a good physical team. Obviously, Mike Mularkey's no longer there, so maybe their offense changes a little bit towards more of a passing attack. I don't know, but their offense is pretty talented, is my point. And we have struggled against running first teams and tight ends. When we talk about Delaney Walker, he's given us a run for our money plenty of times. So hopefully, I think that's a great test for our defense to see how much they have improved in the running game. And then when we talk about week 2 against the Raiders, same dang thing, man. They have a very good offensive line. You talk about Clutchy Osemele. You talk about Rodney Hudson. You talk about, I guess their tackles are not as good, but their interior of that offensive line is pretty dang good. And they're in 2015, maybe it was 2016. Was it 2016? Man, I don't know. I can't remember. It was either 2016 or 2015. I can't remember when they went they won like 12 games or something like that. But yeah, and again, even last year they had a down year, but their offensive line, I felt like when they ran the ball, they did a pretty good job of it. So again, that's another game. That's another game that we're gonna have to. Our run defense is gonna be tested, and then you talk about the Jets. I can't preview any Jets game. I mean, God only knows what's going to happen in that game. Hopefully, we actually show up on offense, because that was the issue last year. We were playing really good defense, but our offense couldn't do anything. So I'm assuming with Tannehill coming back and the offensive line being much improved, with the running backs being more, they fit our scheme a whole lot more than they did last year, and obviously the receivers, a little bit more depth there. I think we're going to spread the ball around as well. So I think it's going to be different. But again, the thing that I will say about the Titans and the Raiders is just, we just need to do a better job against running offenses, and I think we will. And I think I have all the faith in the world that our offense is going to be so much better than it was last year. That's going to help out our defense, and we're not going to be as tired all the time. And I think that's going to allow us to have more success against some of these physical run games of some of these football teams. Because remember, John Gruden, when he was a coach, loves to run the football. I mean, the guy signed a fullback, and he does have a good offensive line. And again, like I said, I know the Titans switch offensive coordinators, do not know how they're going to call plays this upcoming season, but both of those teams can run the football, so we just got to be right prepared for that. This next news story comes from the Dolphins wire. Let's see, who do the Dolphins select in the redo of the 2014 NFL Draft? So let's see here. What do we got here? In 2014, the Miami Dolphins selected tackle Juwan James in the first round at the 19th overall pick. Even though James is the team's longest turned starting offensive lineman, there's a good chance the Dolphins would draft someone else if they could do it over again. While going back in time isn't possible, which sucks, Draft Wire revisits the 2014 draft 4 years later. In their latest article, Draft Wire has the Dolphins selecting wide receiver Jarvis Landry, a player the team drafted in the second round in the exact same year. Let's see here. They're right. As the article continues here, although Landry is now with the Browns, no one would argue with this selection. As a matter of fact, if Landry would have been chosen in the first round, he would still be on his rookie contract, as the Dolphins would have picked up his fifth-year option. Instead, the Dolphins had to trade Landry merely because they could not pay him the guaranteed money he sought after during free agency. Not that James has been terrible by any means, but he has been slightly above average with the Dolphins. Also, James has suffered season-ending injuries 2 of the last 3 years, while Landry has played in 64 consecutive games to begin his career. Yeah. It's hard for me to remember who all was drafted. The one thing I do remember from that draft, obviously Jarvis, getting him in the second round, I was so happy. But Juwan James, when we took him, I was kind of mad. And the reason I was mad was because I was like, dude, if we wanted to, we could have got him in the second round. We could have traded up to get him, or he probably would have just fell to us. So that's why I was upset with that pick, because I felt like he was a second round pick. But it all ended up working out, and I guess in a weird way it worked out, because obviously we got a lot of really good years with Juice, and then Juwan has been a very good player for us when he's been healthy. This next news story comes from Sports Life. The Miami Dolphins 2018 prediction. So this is from Sports Life, whatever the heck that means. They're again, this is the kind of stuff that we get in July, okay? When nothing's happening. I mean, this is the kind of article, this is the stuff we talk about. It's honestly ridiculous. Let's see here. So this is the prediction. This is their offensive prediction for the 2018 Dolphins. Despite hosting private visits with the draft's major quarterback prospects, the Dolphins reaffirmed their commitment to Tannehill by not trading up from the 11th overall spot. A 37-40 career record has plenty of Dolphins fans wary about whether Tannehill is good enough to shed his game manager label. Gase insists that the 8-5 record Tannehill posted in 2016 before getting hurt is a sign of things to come. Gase was particularly impressed by how Tannehill remained engaged through attendance at games and team meetings during the rehabilitation process. While Jay Cutler replaced him in the starting lineup with lackluster results, this is a quote from Adam. He said, quote, "I feel like Tannehill did get better even though he didn't play." So, yeah. I mean, I think that's the obvious thing to say is, ooh, there's a sick cover of Pro Football, and it's got Tannehill on the front of it. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. With Tannehill coming back, we expect the offense to be better. With the offensive line being reinforced, I think we expect... And dude, in my opinion, I think we have a good football team. I really do. I really do feel like we have a good football team. And I think if we don't make the playoffs, we're going to be an 8-8 team or a 9-7 team. If we don't make the playoffs, and we're going to lose a lot of close games if that happens. But I feel like we are good enough to be a playoff team. We'll see how things shake out. But I hope we're not one of those teams that just is a good team, and you can tell they're a good team, but they can't get it done in the fourth quarter. I don't want to be the dang 2017 San Diego Chargers where we just keep choking. I really hope that doesn't happen. But that's the only thing I could see us... That's where I could see us failing. But I do really, unless injuries happen, God forbid that, please don't let that happen, we have a good football team. So we're going to skip this article because it's a stupid, they're just, we're going to predict, we're going to write an article about predictions and then just quote, and then take quotes from other people. Like, that doesn't make it, just make a prediction. For God's sake. This is why I should read the articles before I start talking about it. I just did a better job of previewing the season in two sentences than Pro Football Talk. I don't even know what the heck that was. Anyway. This comes from Bill's Wire, which is obviously the enemy. Shady is working out with Dolphins vet Frank Gore. Yeah, that's all you really need to know. There's an Instagram picture of my dude Frank in some sweatpants. He looks like he's coming straight out of the 90s. I'm just trying to describe this picture for you guys. And Shady, he's got leggings on. He's got some tennis shoes on. He's also got an extra pair of tennis shoes. And he looks kind of uncomfortable sitting next to Frank, who's just a much stronger man than Shady. So, and then on the bottom of the picture, he says, when you talk about greatness, you're talking about Frank Gore, learning from the best. And, yeah, there you go. Now, I don't know how Dolphins fans are going to feel about that, but who cares? I mean, it's just they're just having a good time. This next news story comes from Pro Football Talk and NBCSports.com. Frank Gore always knew he'd end up with the Dolphins. Frank Gore has never been far from Miami, which is why he always suspected he'd end up with the Dolphins. The veteran running back said he envisioned himself joining his hometown team someday after growing up playing in Coral Gables High School and playing for the University of Miami. This is, I think, a quote from Frank. He said, quote, I remember when Bobby when he was a rookie or second year, we trained together over the summer. I told him before the end, I'm going to be in the locker room with you. I remember when I signed, he said, boy, you were right. I'm happy to be here. Now I just want to show everybody that I still can play. And again, dude, I'm telling you right now, and I wouldn't be saying this if I didn't believe it. I'm honestly, I'm serious. I'm serious. If this team sucked, I would tell you. I remember in 2016, I was previewing the season. I'm telling you, I was like, dude, guys, everybody needs to be patient. This is Adam Gase's first season. Things might not go well. Somehow, we went 10-6 that season. I have no idea how. That team was not good enough to play. Guys, we won 10 games. 10 with that roster. With that roster, dude. When the best defensive player in a game was Neville Hewitt at one point. I mean, that's pretty sad. I mean, don't even let what Adam Gase did. He should have won. He should have won Coach of the Year. But Jason Garrett won it somehow. Jerry Jones used all of the money that he has in the world and bought that man the Coach of the Year award. Give Adam Gase, Dak Prescott, that offensive line, and Ezekiel Elliott, and he will murder the NFL. Okay? It won't even be close. We're talking Super Bowl. Okay? I'm not even joking around. You get Ron Milner, guys who know I'm talking about. Super successful coach. Assistant coach. He wasn't a good head coach. I'm getting off track here. Really does a great job with that defense down in Dallas with not a ton of talent. You give Adam Gase that offense, and you don't tell me they don't win 10 games a year. Are you kidding me? Seriously. And somehow he wins Coach of the Year with Adam Gase, who had a nowhere near as good a talented offense that year, with the defense that we had. Are you kidding me right now? And he wins Coach of the Year. Again, Jerry Jones has friends in high places. That's all I'm saying. And again, I don't even know what the heck we were talking. We're talking about the roster, the 2018 roster. I got off track. Yeah, we have a good team this year, and I would tell you guys if we didn't. My point was in 2016, I was telling you guys it's probably going to be a rough year. Somehow we won 10 games. That's how we got into the Coach of the Year argument. I pictured Jason Garrett in my head, and then I got really mad. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire. Who are the 5 most important Dolphins leading up to the 2018 season? Number 1, quarterback Ryan Tannehill. The Dolphins are putting their entire season. I swear to God, dude. Every article I think I've read every week in this offseason has something to do with Ryan Tannehill, and it's all about these exact words in it. The Dolphins are putting their entire season on Ryan. Yes. Because if Tannehill goes down, we got David Fales. Like, yeah, obviously, dude. Of course, if he got hurt, we're not going to have as good of a season if he was healthy. Obviously. Okay, let's go to number 2. I got to click next. It can't just have a dang article, for God's sakes. I'm going to sit here and wait. Number 2, wide receiver Kenny Stills. Most fans will say Devontae Parker's production this season is critical, but the 4th-year receiver has proven he is just an average player up to this point. With Landry's departure, Stills could prove to be the biggest benefactor. Last season, Stills recorded 58 catches for 147 yards and 6 touchdowns. Those numbers should increase even more with the Dolphins returning quarterback. Okay, so here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. This is a pump the brakes moment. He had 847 yards on 58 catches and 6 touchdowns with Jay Cutler, who couldn't. We don't speak of Jay Cutler on this podcast. I'm not even going to say anything more about him because it's not worth it. But he had almost 1,000 yards. We almost had 3 receivers go for 1,000 yards with not very good quarterback play. Now that my dude, number 17, is coming back, okay, who can sling the rock, is coming back. That should improve. Even if it's 100 yards, that's a super successful season for my opinion, Kenny's the number 2 and DP's the number 1. But if he has those same kind of numbers, that's pretty good for your number 2 receiver. I'm not wrong. I don't think I'm wrong about that. So if he did that again, if he did that with poor quarterback play and Tannehill's coming back, it should be better. And people forget he had a very, and again, this list is the most important Dolphins to the 2018 season. This is Kenny Stills that we're talking about right now, in case you guys got confused. Again, with the poor quarterback situation, people do forget that Buccaneers game where he straight up, I mean, the dude was dicing. It was barbecue chicken out there. He can take over a game, believe it or not, and he's a touchdown machine. Obviously, in 2016, he almost went for, I think he did go for double digits, if I'm not mistaken, or if he didn't, it was very close. I think he had 9 if he didn't. So he's a touchdown machine. He's red zone, not a red zone, but he can score from anywhere on the field. And Kenny's an underrated asset to this team. Not enough people talk about him. And he can take over a game. He had like 145 yards against almost close to 200 yards against the Buccaneers. Again, Buccaneers not that great of a team. I hear you. The quarterback's a dang molester, for God's sakes. But and I cannot believe we lost to that team. It still blows my mind. But still, it was a very, very good performance, and I still think Kenny can give us that, and he should give us even more than that with Tannehill coming back. That was the second, and I agree with that. I do think Kenny is going to be very important for our success. This is the third important Dolphin to the 2018 season is defensive end Robert Quinn. The Dolphins released Ndamukong Suh mainly for salary cap purposes, but they also thought Suh didn't make the impact they thought he would when the Dolphins signed him in 2015. They hope Quinn can return to be one of the most feared pass rushers when he averaged 13 sacks from 2012 to 2014. If Quinn can become a double-digit sack player again, that will take a lot of pressure off Cameron Wake and the reset of the defensive line also. A great pass rush will also help the Dolphins' young secondary. I agree with that. People forget Robert had one of the greatest seasons a pass rusher has ever had. I think that's the year he won Defensive Player of the Year. He could make an argument he should have won MVP. I mean, the amount of sacks he had, what? Not only the sacks, but the forced fumbles as well. So yeah, he definitely has the potential to go back to that, and with a healthy Robert Quinn and going back to his natural position in a 4-3 scheme with his hand in the dirt, things are looking up for him. The fourth most important Dolphin for the 2018 season, linebacker Raekwon McMillan. McMillan's ACL. Okay. We know. Raekwon should help this run defense a ton, and according to the Dolphins wire. And I agree with that. I do think Raekwon is important. McMillan's injury also set the Dolphins defense back in 2017 after his injury. Chase Allen, Michael, and Ray Maluga all played significant downs with little success. I don't ever want to hear the name Ray Maluga ever again. We had Ray Maluga out there at times, dude. 2017 was such a oh my god, it hurts. Alright, so the fifth and final most important Dolphins, the fifth most important Dolphin for the 2018 season is safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. The Dolphins had an opportunity to trade up to select a quarterback, but they decided to stay put and draft Fitzpatrick instead. With mixed results at the safety position a year ago, the Dolphins will hope Fitzpatrick will provide an upgrade over T.J. McDonald. During the spring, Fitzpatrick intercepted a few passes along with breaking up a number of passes. Although he is only a rookie, the Dolphins need Fitzpatrick to make an immediate impact this upcoming season. My dude is a beast and a half, and he's going to be just fine. And obviously he's going to be important to our success, as long as our coaches understand what he does best, and that's free safety. And I really do believe that. And hopefully he does get played there, because we already have a great nickelback in Bobby McCain, who's just a straight up beast. And I feel like we don't have a true free safety on the roster right now, and we have a dang beast who could be that in Minkah Fitzpatrick. So I think he needs to play free safety. Rashad needs to play strong, and TJ either needs to be a linebacker or he needs to be a backup. And that's just the way I look at it. This last news story comes from Dolphins Wire. ESPN ranks Dolphins running back near the bottom in the latest rankings. And to me, guys, I'm not even gonna read it. I'm not even gonna read the rest of this. To me, this is just ignorance. If you didn't watch Kenyon Drake from the tail end of the 2017 season, and you're going to sit here and tell me that we're one of the worst running back units in a league where there's not a lot of good running back units. It's pretty top heavy when you talk about Cowboys, Chiefs, Rams, Cardinals, and Steelers, really. And then after that, you get into the Falcons, and then it kind of falls off from there. And I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody that I can't remember right now. But it's not like 20 out of the 30 some odd teams that they don't have. There's not everybody has a great running backs, is my point. And I feel like Kenyon's one of the best in the AFC. I mean, he led the league in rushing. The league, not just the AFC, since when he got his start. And I can't remember what week that was, but for the rest of the year, he led the league in rushing. So that's super impressive, especially since he had the duties he had in the receiving game. And then obviously look at Kalen Ballage coming from Arizona State, where all they did was throw the football. They didn't run the ball a lot, especially in the Pac-12. And then you think about Frank Gore, who's this great player who's coming off almost a 1,000-yard season at his age. We have one of the best stables in the league. I don't even think you can argue that. So to me, this is just ignorance. I would love to sit down with somebody and have that discussion, because I don't know how you look at those three guys and go, yeah, that's one of the worst in the league. That doesn't make any sense to me. And people might say, oh, we look at the Cleveland Browns or some of these other teams that have, three really good running backs, Duke Johnson, Carlos Hyde, and Nick Chubb. I think we're right up there with those guys, man. I mean, we have three running backs that can get the job done, and I think Kenyon's going to be a superstar. I mean, he really, really does. And you listen to Hall of Fame actual players who have played the game at a high level talk about Kenyon Drake. They talk about him like he's going to be the next big thing, and Kalen Ballage as well. I think Terrell Davis, he said very, very high thing. There's nothing but great things to say about him. So, and Kenyon Drake. So, I can't wait to watch Kenyon play at a full capacity for an entire season, because it's going to be something special. So again, to me, that's just ignorance. If we're not a top 5 unit, we're at the very least a top 10 unit. And I would love to see the other teams on that list. But it didn't have them. But yeah, I don't know how we're not in the top 10. To me, that's ridiculous. And again, this is based off of depth as well, so it's not just your starting running back. Anyway, this has been the podcast for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember, and before I let you guys go, if you made it this far in the podcast, then you like listening to my content. And we'll take a minute to discuss the channel. The fan Q&A did not happen this week because I'm a lazy person and completely forgot about it. I completely forgot to post a questionnaire for you guys. That's my bad. Next week we'll have it, I promise you. And I swear to God, if we don't get a sufficient number of questions, I'm not doing it again. There has to be at least over 20 questions each time. At least. Or it's just not worth doing. So make sure you guys, when it does get up there, when it does get uploaded, you guys get your questions in, okay? And I'll give you guys a week to do it. So you guys better put your dang questions in. So that's going to be it, guys. That has been the podcast for this week. If you guys like this podcast, go check out the channel and support the content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.